Well, welcome everybody. This is Ann Backrack. This is going to be 45 action-packed minutes built around how to discipline the fun and growth back into your business by applying the 11 tips for staying focused and on track to achieving your 2018 goals. Wow, that really sounded good, didn't it? Well, this web class is recorded and you will be able to review it again as many times as you'd like. If you need to ask a question, please feel free to type it in the question area and I will answer them at the end. Make sure that you have some paper, pen or pencil ready or whatever method you use that works best for you to take down some notes and ideas that you're going to get from our time together today. And of course, a special thank you to Insurance WebEx Insider for hosting this web class. I'm glad to be with you to share some ideas to help you be even more successful, whatever that is for you. All right, let's get started. As a financial advisor and or business professional, there are many things that you must do in order to accomplish your goals so you can have the kind of business and life that you've truly dreamed of having. From managing a team to handling clients and everything else in between. It can be easy to lose complete control of your day, as you might have experienced occasionally. We all have the same 24 hours available to us every day. So it's really how we choose to use those hours and that time that makes the biggest difference. Revenue generation activities, meetings, client service, and a to-do list a mile long are frequent daily tasks in the world of running your business. The key is to find an effective way to handle the daily routine so you can stay laser focused on the tasks that you need to do that put you in the highest probability to achieve your goals in the shortest amount of time and with the least amount of effort. That's the overall goal, and these are some ideas that are going to help you do that. Now, tip number 1 of the 11 tips is simply breaking down goals into daily action steps and, of course, tracking them. So tip number 1 really has multiple pieces to it, and it's longer than any of the other tips we're going to go over today. In order to work consistently and to be most effective, all the information in this tip number 1 must be put together because they work in harmony together. So somewhere between running a business and even trying to have a personal life, it's not uncommon for our goals to fall by the wayside. Sure, I know, we write them out. We write them on a goals list. We put it in probably at the bottom of the stack of papers is where it ends up, in your desk or filed away in a drawer or in a file on your computer that you can't even remember the name of. If you're not paying attention to your goals on a daily basis, you're probably taking the long way to get there. So what we need to do is break the goals down into daily action steps, put them into your daily calendar, your diary, or your planner, whatever you call it. Those high payoff action steps should be labeled high priority and handled as early, typically in the day as possible, or at least at the best time that leads to the best result. No excuses, no exceptions. So here's the tip. Here's where I believe it starts. So what you see on your screen is a simple goals Word document. You can be in any format that you want, but in this example, it's just a simple Word document. Now, my one-on-one clients complete their long-range personal and business goals that come from doing the Wheel of Life first. And there's a million of Wheel of Life formats out there, and it to me, it just really helps lay the basic foundation from which everything else is built. And it's free on the silver membership on my website at accountabilitycoach.com. If you join the silver membership, which is free, you can get the Wheel of Life and get that done and start working on that. When you break down your goals then into yearly goals, quarterly goals, and biweekly goals, that helps you. It's just basically working your way backwards. So it's really biting off smaller bite-sized pieces that are much more manageable to handle. From here, then, you're going to put things into weekly or biweekly goals. Now, the weekly goals are really those activities and goals or projects that aren't really being tracked on your monthly and weekly tracking spreadsheets. And some people call those business metrics or dashboards. And we're going to talk about that next. So basically, all you're doing is really thinking, don't pay attention to the date. This would be beginning 2019 and beyond. So you want to take each one of the 8 areas that come on the Wheel of Life, you give it a score, and in order to be a perfect 10, what would that look like? What would that feel like? Who would you be doing that with? What would you be doing, etc. Then you just chunk it down. So this is by December 31st, 2018. Already, we're on 2018. And then you want to have at least one goal for each one of the 8 areas above. Then you break it down further into quarterly goals and then biweekly goals. And again, these are really things down here that are not being tracked on what we're going to go over next. Okay, so here's an example from then your goals document. You're going to create the super simple monthly or annual tracking spreadsheet. Again, some people call it a dashboard or business metrics, whatever you refer to it that works for you. It doesn't really matter what you call it. It does really matter, though, that you use it on a consistent and regular basis. So all you're doing is saying, hey, if I want to have, for example, 24 new ideal clients next year. In this example, it says 40. Again, it's whatever you want. And then it says, okay, well, if I want to add X number of ideal clients, what are all the activities I actually have to do in order to get an ideal client, even one? Well, I've got to ask for referrals of my good existing clients, which not a lot of people are very good at or don't do consistently. They're a little bit wimpy in this area. And this is where I think people miss the boat big time. And this is a whole nother web class on that. But or you can listen to Bill Cates. I'm sure he's got some good ideas for you on that. But it's basically, I think advisors just really missed the boat on this and could be really getting the mother load from their good clients and not having to do a lot of extra type of prospecting types of things because most people find their advisor or person that they want to work with through a referral. Then you have to obviously call them. Then you have to actually talk to them. Then you have to have an initial meeting with them, et cetera, before they actually become either a client. That could be an ideal client, a non-ideal client, or neither. That's typically what you're looking at. So just by having one goal around one thing of just adding ideal clients, you might have 6 activities that you need to track in order to get to that one number. Okay, then we want to chunk it down even further. So again, even more bite-sized pieces. This is where, again, I think it becomes a little bit more manageable for people. A lot of times people have too vague or broad of goals, and they don't really break it down into daily steps that they can manage easier. Now, you want to calculate, and this is important, your annual tracking has, let me just go back to that real quick. This annual goal here is really based on, how much time you have in the year. So if you're starting, for example, in the case right now, we're starting for 2018, so you're starting for the whole 12 months. Most people don't work 52 weeks a year or the full 12 months. At least nobody that I know does, which is a good thing. So you really are calculating it on the work weeks available. So for some people, it might be 40 weeks, 42 weeks, 44 weeks, 47 weeks, whatever it is, but it's something less than 52. And the reason for that is if you're basing it on 52 and then you set your goals based on 52 weeks and you start to fall behind on any one of these activities, you're already going to be behind on day one. Because again, nobody works 52 weeks that I know. So if you want to calculate the weekly goal based on the work weeks available, this is really important that most people don't think about. Now, when I'm working with my one-on-one clients to create this, we start working together, obviously, because most people don't track anything or much of anything. And that's why I'm sharing all of this with you now. So I found that in order to know what you have done or haven't done to get the results you've gotten or not gotten, you have to track the numbers. So it's what's the reality of the situation. So you've heard tons of expressions around what gets tracked, get measured, and all that sort of thing. So some of you might be doing that now, but some of you might be doing it a little bit, but could be doing it even better. One of my clients actually created his goals for the whole year and did basically everything that I just showed you. He then shared his goal numbers with a few of his advisor, peers, friends, business associates, whatever you want to call them. He proceeded to tell them what his goals were, and every one of them, he came back and told me, every one of them told him that his goals were too high. There was no way he was going to achieve them. What was he thinking? He's setting himself up to be a failure, and all this negative, chit chat came back at him. The good news is that he didn't listen to a word that they said, and he didn't change any of his goals. By the end of the year, he had exceeded all these goals that they said weren't possible. He exceeded every single one of the goals that he laid out to achieve for the year, except for one. And that one goal he actually hit exactly on the number. So when you put your mind to something and do what's required, you can experience the same things or even better things than you might have even thought was possible. And don't listen to what other people have to say, especially if it's a bunch of negative words coming at you. Creating the goals document, the monthly and weekly tracking is, again, the foundation from which everything I believe is built. It typically takes most people around 30 days to really get clear on this and really put everything together. I do have a program called 30 Days on the Path to Success that has this and a number of other things that can help you get started with this planning or making it even better if you already do really pretty good planning, to help you make sure that you have set yourself up to make 2018 your best year ever. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay. All right, tip number 2. Whew, I told you that was a big tip, but I had to include it all together because it all really goes together. Well, all these really go together somehow. Tip number 2 is remove distractions and interruptions from your life. So wasting time on low priority tasks is one of the most common sources of interruptions to anybody's success. Emailing, texting, social media, internet surfing, personal phone calls, chatting it up with superficial conversations, you know the drill, you know what I'm talking about, are all time wasters for many of us. Work hours, in my opinion, should be reserved for work. Distractions need to be a thing of the past and not your present or your future if you want to achieve your goals in the time frame that you've set. You might have to close your email down or the internet outside of time blocks when you don't really need it. If you still have your ringer on your phone on or something that dings at you, turn that off. Don't let the calls get through from team members to you. Schedule appointments, and we'll talk about that. Remove paperwork that you're not currently working on from your site. Basically, create a system that works for you and really stick to it. consistent execution of new habits that put you in the highest probability position to make progress in 2018 so you can create the kind of business and life you truly want and I believe you deserve is key. If you reduced all the distractions and interruptions each day, you would probably get back at least 1 to 2 more hours of productive work. And just think about that for a minute. That's probably true. I mean, we asked a number of people what they said they would get back if they weren't doing, their high payoff things or things that they knew they should be doing. And it typically was at least 2 hours a day they felt they could get back. So that might hold true for you as well. Tip number 3, be aware of sabotaging habits. So no one is ever completely free, at least I don't think so, of self-sabotaging habits, which is why it's important to actually just be aware of your tendencies. So when you're aware of your sabotaging habits, you can more easily spot them, which helps you then stop them from distracting you from your own success. So whether you create procrastination or overwhelm, an emotional crisis, maybe it's physical exhaustion, relationship drama of any sort, or a host of all other common habits, you're actually creating self-sabotage. Achieving your goals really becomes a lot easier when you can spot these troublesome habits and consciously and quickly get yourself back on track. Over the years, in working with many people, I found that business development, revenue generation, ideal client acquisition, again, whatever you want to call it, is something that is typically not done as much as necessary to achieve desired goals and results. Most people do what I call business development, revenue generation, ideal client acquisition, avoidance activities. You might be able to relate to some of this. They choose to do activities that are easier, perhaps more fun, could actually be delegated, and use this as an excuse, as maybe even a procrastination tactic or a sabotaging habit to not do what they know actually needs to be done. So as you're going through these 11 tips, just think about how, any one of these or 2 of these could be applied to what you're doing to help you. So again, you don't have to apply all 11 tips, but there might be something that resonates more with you than something else. And you want to just make notes on that and work on that. If you try to do a lot of times everything at once, it obviously doesn't work. It's too much. So you want to, it's just like chunking everything down, breaking everything, going backwards and working on your goals kind of one step at a time. This is the same thing here. Tip number 4 is get clear on the why. When you get clear on the why you're working on a particular task, you can intellectually grasp whether you really need to be doing it at all or having someone else do it. So try this exercise. Ask yourself, why am I doing blank? And insert the task. If your answer isn't a good enough why, you know you shouldn't be spending your valuable time on it. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So there was a quote that I read by Frederick, I can't even say his name, Nietzsche, I think it is. But I liked his quote. I can't say his name, but I like his quote. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. So if you personally would like to explore your why a little bit more, maybe you know what it is, but maybe you'd like to explore it a little bit more by having your personal value staircase either done or updated if you've had it done before. There isn't usually a lot of changes, but sometimes it's good to refresh it and just make it current. You might want to take advantage of the special offer to have a complimentary consultation to get even more clarity or just refresh your memory of what you put down if you've gone through this exercise before, which I see from the list of attendees, many of you have done this. So to simply do that, all you have to do is just email me at ann@accountabilitycoach.com before the end of this web class and take advantage of this. It's only going to be available to those that are on this web class today as an extra benefit for you to showing up. It will not be available to anyone else. So those of you who are here, get one great extra benefit if you so choose to take advantage of that. Okay. Tip number 5 is chunking like tasks or like activities together. So what I mean by that is what you see on your screen are a couple examples. So on Monday, for example, I put prep time and setup and then post meeting time. A benefit to chunking, in my opinion, is really reducing kind of the air quotes scatterbrain effect. So multitasking and jumping between different tasks reduces your brain's ability to maintain focus, effectiveness, and efficiency. So examples of chunking your time would include things like listening to voicemail or returning important calls all at one time, reading emails and replying to urgent inquiries all at one time, making prospecting calls all at one time, seeing prospects or existing clients in your office, one after another, creating marketing materials, coordinating offsite meetings with other appointments or errands or personal things that you want to do. So I always find this interesting. Like when I go to a certain location for whatever the reason is, I always think, okay, what else can I do while I'm in this particular location or out during this time? How much can I get done? And not everybody apparently thinks that way, I've found over time. So again, doing as many like or similar things as possible together overall does make you more time efficient. Now, along the same line of thinking, consider scheduling time to really prepare for a meeting on your calendar. So whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes, it really helps to ensure you have the right way of being to get the right result that you actually want, and make sure that you aren't thinking of something that you just finished or something else that you have to do. And then schedule time after the meeting to complete any action steps you need to do so you don't have to try to remember it later in the day, 2 days later, or even at the end of the week. So get everything done and then move on to the next activity with a clear head for whatever that activity is. Carrying things in your head or unfinished things can be distractions, and you're afraid of forgetting to do them or not remembering to do them. So we want to get that out of your head. So put everything as much as possible in one place if you can't get it done right away, to be able to do that. So I found, and the reason why I have prep time and post time is because I found, again, in talking with people that I coach, that sometimes they were having meetings back to back, which is good. Again, doing a lot of like activities together, but they were doing all the post meeting time and not really preparing for the time well. So the post meeting time was like a week later, 4 days later, 3 days later, and then they were trying to remember everything they did during the week or the last week and catch everything up. That's a time waster just thinking about that. You've got to remember everything that you did, review your notes, and get everything organized. When it's much more time efficient if you prepare, again, 5, 10, 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be 3 minutes to have your pre-shot routine that basically says I'm in the right mindset with the right preparation to get the outcome that I want to get. You execute on that with no distractions, nothing else going on. And then you have your post-meeting time to clear everything out to move on to the next thing. Same thing like when you're making calls here, hey, I've got to get my scripts ready, my list ready. Who am I going to call? What am I going to say? My mindset's in the right place to get the outcomes that I want, and then any cleanup or post activities that I need to do. Tip number 6 is create a blocked schedule. So I basically call this an ideal model work week for how you want things to be in an ideal world. So all of my clients have one. So it's basically, how do I want my week to lay out? So if I had an ideal situation, my week would look like this, and I would have the right amount of time in the right places to get the outcomes that I'm looking for. So create hours in your workday where you focus on single tasks, again, or chunking your like activities together. And during that block activity time, nothing else gets your attention. Nothing else gets your attention. accept the task in front of you. So again, you might have to remove, cluttering things that are on your desk, turning off your phone, closing your email, or doing whatever you need to do to really get that focused time in. And I just lost my train of thought because I was going to say something and I wanted to finish the other thought. So at the end of the time block, whatever was on your calendar is now finished. What a great feeling that is. So then you go on to the next task. So in real life, if the calendar could talk, the calendar would just tell you what to do every time you have something on it. It'd say, okay, Billy, now it's time to work on this. And you'd say, okay, calendar, that's what I'll do. The calendar would then say, okay, Adam, time to work on this. You'd say, okay, going to work on that. So it just basically, if it could talk, it would tell you, assuming you have the right things on it, you would just do what it says to do. And I cannot tell you how many people who have actually done this because they weren't used to doing this and it overwhelmed them in the beginning. For some people, they just were like, oh my God, I have to schedule every minute of the day. I'm freaking out. They said they cannot believe how much more productive they are, how much more focused they are, how much more they get done in the time allotted. So again, not allowing anything else to get in front of you. Now, I know people who can work in 1 or 2 or even 4-hour time blocks. You need to do what works best for you. So I believe if you can create longer time blocks for certain tasks that take longer, it's better. But if you need to break it up and that works better for you, then you have to do what works better for you. I have some people that can only do hour time blocks and without changing to do something else or taking a break. So some people work great for 4-hour time blocks and not everybody does. So you want it to work the best for you and, do it at different times because at first you might not know what works best for you. So you might do your business development, for example, client acquisition in the morning during a certain time, and you might try some in the afternoon to see what gets the best result. I had one lady I was working with, and she realized that when she was scheduling appointments for client meetings or prospective meetings, and she was calling every day of the week, when she called them Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, she always got a better result. So we don't know why. It doesn't matter. So we put more time. We took off the time from Thursday and Friday, put it all on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Therefore, she increased the appointments that she got just by paying attention to what results she was getting during her time blocks. Tip number 7, live life by appointment only. And this is a habit for many, many, many people that they have to really get used to. So when someone calls in, and some people are great at this, but a lot of people I talk to aren't, at least initially. When someone calls in, have your assistant basically take a complete and in-depth message and schedule a time with you or whoever in your office, if you have more people, for them to return the call. Now, I've never heard of anyone saying, hey, I love phone tag. Can't wait to have it, want to do more. This will really help reduce phone tag because to my knowledge, nobody likes it and it's a waste of time. Meet with your assistant and any other team members by appointment only, again, to reduce interruptions. Now, the only exception to this rule that I can think of is that if the building is burning down and someone needs to come in and tell you to get out and you don't have an appointment for that, I think that is okay. So as much as possible, live your life by face-to-face or phone appointments only. You'll be amazed at how much more effective you and everybody will be by applying just this one concept. So instead of, you're probably familiar within your office, probably you've had somebody say, hey, what's going on with this? What's happening with that? What's going on with this? And it can be from the staff or you interrupting them or them interrupting you. So when you have appointments with everybody, you just do everything that you need to talk about, and then you don't have to interrupt anybody because the next time you talk to them, you'll be, going over whatever else you might want to talk about. I even had one administrative manager create a process, and that she was just working with one advisor, and every time the advisor, because she was in a bad habit, people are just in maybe it's not a bad habit, but it's a habit that's not serving them that could be done better. But she would walk out, the advisor would walk out and start to open her mouth, and the administrative manager would put her hand up and say, please turn around and follow the process. So the advisor would go back into her office and, follow the process for whatever she wanted to talk to her about at the next meeting. So you just have to sometimes give your staff also, the permission to be able to do that, to follow the process, whatever that is for your office. And there's a lot of different ways to be able to do that. I even had an advisor I was working with whose business was somewhere over $10 million. And they actually thought that it was bad customer, I'm going to say customer because he had a lot of people, customer service to not drop everything when someone called in to help them out. So they would tell me how much time they would basically waste by not putting the time into the calendar to call them back. But okay, I'm interrupted now. I was working on this. Now 1 or 2 or 3 people have to be interrupted to help somebody calling in to handle that. And now they have to go back to whatever it was they were working on. Oh my gosh, just the thought of all this was just killing my poor head. And you can imagine how many calls they had throughout the day because they had tons and tons of customers. So I asked them, I said, look, just try this out. Just when somebody calls in, take all the complete and in-depth information. Whoever has to call them back, get a gauge of about how much time it's going to take for that person to get the information. So they're not calling them back, finding out why they're calling them back with the answer to why they were calling. And then scheduling in the calendar with them. I said, try this out for a week or 2 weeks and let me know if anybody complains. And I've done this with other offices since then. And believe it or not, of course, nobody complained about them, not responding right away and scheduling a phone appointment. They actually, because now you have their undivided attention, you have your undivided attention, and it works out really well for everyone. And again, if their appointment isn't scheduled, most likely you're doing phone tag again, which is no fun for anybody. Okay, because we could talk a lot about time management aspects, all the aspects, and how to be effective using your calendar and, working by appointment only. There is a complimentary audio recording that you can get. It's about an hour long just on a lot of those concepts themselves. So the URL is on your screen. You can download it. Again, it's free, and listen to that anytime that you want. And of course, in addition, on the silver membership, which is the next URL below that, again, you have a lot of options and free resources for creating or updating your ideal client profile, as well as your wheel of life, and a lot of other things that are available to you on that. So again, these are all complimentary resources to you. Okay. Tip number 8, ready, set, go. For intense task completion, you might consider using a timer and set it for, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it might be. And I put because when I think of a timer, I know some of you are much younger than me. I think of a timer this way. Today, most of you probably think of a timer this way. So I had to find something that was on a phone. So it doesn't really obviously matter what you're using. This is effective in today's world because it's free on everybody's phone and you don't have to get a physical old-fashioned kind of egg timer, as we used to call it, to do that. So it just really helps you with increasing your focus and maybe even giving you a little energy as an edge. So you'd be surprised how much you can actually accomplish when you maybe create a fun or somewhat competitive environment for yourself. So doing this can be similar to how effective you are before you leave on vacation. So some of you might be familiar with this concept. You know what I mean? You go, okay, I'm getting ready to go on a week vacation or 2-week vacation. Wow, I've got all these things that I have to get done. And you look back before you leave and you go, wow, I got so much done. And you probably maybe weren't thinking though, wow, I could have gotten this much done every week if I was just more focused, like I was going on vacation. So it kind of is similar. The concept is similar to that. So at least initially, that might help you if you're having trouble with, your focus. Hey, I need like a 30-minute timer to say, okay, I'm just going to work on this and see how much I can get done in 30 minutes. It might be you're making calls or you're doing some other things, and you just want to get a gauge of how much time sometimes things take. You can use the timer to help you with that as well. Okay, tip number 9, do what you do best and only you can do and delegate the rest. So you should only be focusing on tasks that you complete with the greatest efficiency, effectiveness, and results. Everything else should be delegated to a team member, assistant, a virtual assistant, or whoever else could do it to get the best result that you're looking for. So to me, it's ask yourself, could someone else do whatever that task is that you're doing if you assigned it to them simply, if you help them create a process, if you help them create a script to get it done, or whatever might be necessary to delegate that to someone else. Now, it could be a whole task or just part of a task. Too many people that I talk to hold on to things way too long just because, I've always done it, Anne. I've just always done it, or I never thought about delegating that just because I've always done it. It just never occurred to me. So you want to always be, every time you're doing something, just ask yourself, you know, could someone else do this? And if the answer is yes, then it's something that you need to add to the delegation list. I found that successful people are really very good delegators. Number 10 is leverage your peak energy. So each person obviously has their own unique time of the day when they are at their best, their peak energy. So whether you're an early bird or a night owl, tackle the tasks that require the most energy and focus to complete during the peak energy time that you have for yourself. You'll get more done in less time with optimal results. So again, ask yourself, when is the best time to get the best result for whatever the activity is that you're doing each day? So again, sometimes you may not know, like I pointed out, if you're making calls for business development, revenue generation, client acquisition types of things, you may not know that until you start tracking it and doing that to find out when that is. And sometimes even if it's your peak energy, I've had people tell me my peak energy, believe it or not, is in the afternoon. They're not a morning person. However, I've also found that sometimes, and Brian Tracy calls it eating that frog, doing that right away, eat that frog, and then you can get on with your day and let every, thing else occur that's going to occur. But doing the high payoff things first that are going to generate the best results. So even though the peak energy might be in the afternoon, doing some revenue generation activity first thing in the morning can help ensure that you actually do it. Because sometimes, again, people use the excuse, I'm sure that's not many of you, that, hey, it's the afternoon and all these other things happened. Life happened, all these other people called in, now I've got to do all this stuff. And you lead yourself to believe that though everything else has to be dropped and you can't do your client acquisition during that time, so you do all these other things. Again, avoidance activities to the things need to be done. So sometimes I really have people at least put at least one time that's first thing in the morning to help them just get their day started right. With the important things. And tip number 11, eating healthy for real energy. So being a busy and successful person requires real energy. Sugar, caffeine, and processed foods only offer, in my opinion, again, that's my opinion, a false energy. And the afternoon energy crash for some people can really be pretty severe. So I don't know if that's any of you, but I've heard of some people just really crash and burn at a certain time in the afternoon. And I've actually never experienced that, so I don't know what that feels like, but I hear it from quite a few people. So it's my suggestion that you reduce or possibly even eliminate sugar, caffeine, or processed foods as much as possible, while boosting some raw fruits and vegetables and nuts or whole grains to maintain a steady and consistent amount of energy that you need. Some studies even suggest that having a small snack or meal every, 2 hours or so, every hour or 2 hours is also good. I've recently seen somebody just recently told me about another study that says, no, that's not recommended anymore. I mean, I look at it this way. You can make anything you want to make look good, however you decide to believe in it or choose it. So it's just my suggestion that, everything affects everything. If you eat crappy, how does that affect your energy and how does that affect your outcome of you getting that kind of results that you're really looking for? And I even have one client who was telling me that, hey, Anne, I've been eating way too much at dinner at night and, eating too late. And so we started to explore that. I said, well, what's the reason for that? Give me an idea of how your day unfolds, exactly. And so, he has his lunch around, lunchtime at noon, and then he goes to the gym right after work. So he doesn't get home until 7:30. And by the time he eats, it's 8 o'clock, and then now he is up for a while digesting his food, and then he goes to bed later, so he's not getting enough sleep for when he has to get up the next day. And and he's starving by the time he gets home at night. And I said, well, what do you think would fix this? And he thought about it for a minute, and he said, well, I could have a protein shake. If I could get a protein shake about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, that would hold me over so I wouldn't be quite as hungry. Plus, I think I would be more energized at my workout. I said, great. So let's put it into your schedule that at 3:30, for example, you're going to have a protein shake. So you're going to have your administrative assistant basically either go buy you one or make you one in your kitchen, whatever's the easiest way for you to get that protein shake so you can have it. And it's so funny because he was like, oh, Anne, I could never ask anybody to get me a protein shake. And it's like, really? So you need this. It's not a good use of your time to make your own protein shake or go buy one. So he can easily do it. You have the resources available. And so he did. He finally sucked it up, and that's an assignment. And that's one of the tasks that, his administrative person provides to him around 3:30 every day is protein shake. And then it helps him. So again, everything really affects everything. And if you're not getting enough sleep, which sleep studies always show, most people go through life sleep deprived, that does affect the outcomes that you're getting as well. Okay. So basically, in my opinion, to be as successful as you want to be, again, however you define that, there are activities you must do in order to accomplish your personal goals. So you can have the kind of business and life that you really want. And again, I believe you deserve. So we've just talked about ideas to hopefully help you put a little more fun and growth back into your business by applying some amount of these 11 business success principles to help you handle your daily activities, stay focused and on track to achieving your goals in the shortest amount of time and with the least amount of effort. I was just talking to a gentleman today, and he said, well, if I'm going to focus on really increasing my revenue and focusing a little bit more on work, other personal things might have to be sacrificed because I'm going to need more time to do that. I said, that's not necessarily true. You can actually, again, we've talked about, people typically waste an hour to 2 hours a day. So if you're already wasting an hour to 2 hours a day, even 30 minutes a day, just think about that. If you're wasting even just 30 minutes a day, how many hours is that in a week? And how many hours is that in a month? And how many hours is that in a year? So how much more could you actually get done, and what better results could you get just by utilizing that extra 30 minutes that you typically might have wasted in a day? So it's not necessarily true that you actually have to put more time in. You just might have to choose how you use your time differently. And we all choose how we use our time every second of every day. So it's just being conscious of what are you doing? What do you want to do? What do you need to be doing? So again, you can go back and listen to the recording. The live recording will be available in a few days, typically. Up on a website, so you'll have access to that. So review the 11 tips that we talked about, decide which ones that you will implement for even greater success in 2018, or lay out a schedule. Hey, I want to try this one first, and I'm going to do that for a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months. Then I'm going to try this concept, and I'm going to start that in February or February 15th or something like that. So you can, list a couple of these things. Sometimes trying to do too many things again can be a little bit overwhelming. So pick the ones that you think would have the biggest and most profound impact the quickest and apply those. Okay, I'm looking at the question area. So if you do have any questions, feel free to type it in. A number of you said hi. Hello, Anne. Hi. I haven't talked to you guys, some of you guys, in a really long time. Appreciate it, Adam. I appreciate your comment. Thank you so much. Glad you're getting some value from this. I don't see any other questions other than just a few appreciative comments, and I do thank you for that. So you're probably thinking, okay, now that I know these 11 tips for staying focused and on track to achieving my goals, I know what they are. What are my next logical steps? So as I mentioned, schedule time to watch or listen to this program again. The slides and webinar will be available again within about 2 days or so. You'll get an email with the URL. It's like, if you're familiar with my husband, Bill Backrack, he always has an expression. He says, how you can watch a movie a second or third time and see things you missed the first time? Well, I believe personally repetition is a good thing. And for me, a lot of times I do have to do things multiple times to actually get it, to really internalize it and really make it mine and really apply it. So schedule time to make sure to implement those action items that you wrote down. Get your team on board if you need to help you with some of these things, to hold you accountable. If you want to jumpstart by applying these concepts, again, you can check out the 30 days on the Path to Success program. You can go to accountabilitycoach.com. And if you look under the Success Store, you'll see the 30 days on the Path to Success there, and that'll give you more information on what is all included. And the program is currently $97, but when you join the free silver membership, you automatically get 10% off on anything that you invest in. So feel free to do that. It'll only be $87.30. And if you want an extra write-off before the end of the year, I know it's a small one, but you can certainly write it off for this year. I do appreciate Insurance WebEx Insider inviting me to share these proven concepts with you today. And yes, Kimberly, I've mentioned the replay. It will be available, and it actually will be available on this URL right here. So if you wanted to go to the 30 days on the Path to Success under the Success Store, you can see that there and review what's involved with that. And if you like what you've heard today and feel like, hey, I really need to get a handle and better create my game plan for 2018 so I can have my best year ever, you can invest the $87.30. The URL that it will be on, and this will come out to you in an email, I have it on an Insurance WebEx landing page, so you'll have that available. There are some other web classes that I've done for them. They're all listed there as well. So you can download any or all of those that you think would be useful to you. So they're listed there, in addition to this one that will be, again, available within a couple days' time. Imagine for a minute, it's 1 year from now. You wake up, and as you're leisurely drinking your morning beverage, you realize that you're now living your ideal dream life. Take a moment to reflect on what you did to get you here. Maybe you took action on what you learned today is just one key factor. So in other words, don't let this be another session you attended and didn't implement anything. Continue to let me know how else I can be of assistance to you on your goal achievement journey so you can have the kind of business and life you truly want and deserve. I hope you have a great holiday season and make 2018 your best year ever. And my husband, Bill Backrack, is actually doing a web class for Insurance WebEx next week on Wednesday, I believe. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, you'll definitely want to get in on that one and attend that class on that program as well. It should be on the Insider WebEx website. Just looking at any other questions in here. I don't see anything else. Have a great holiday season, everybody. I appreciate your time and being on the call, and take advantage of all the complimentary resources that we talked about. Take care and bye-bye for now.